Hi, I'm Kesten Rono, and today is day 166 of A Course in Miracles. Reviewing Principle 26. Miracles represent freedom from fear. Atoning means undoing. The undoing of fear is an essential part of the atonement value of miracles. Miracles represent freedom from fear. That is a world of freedom and a world of fear, or a world of fear and a world of love. It is not possible to see two worlds. Do you want to see through your upsets and attacks, or through your innocence, your holiness? Atoning means undoing. The undoing of fear is an essential part of the atonement value of miracles. And what is atonement again? It is the completion of the interlocking chain of forgiveness that works all the time and in all dimensions of time. Take it for what you will, but forgiveness is essential, and undoing of fear is an essential part of atonement itself. Let not my mind deny the thought of God. Lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. You are entrusted with the gifts of God. Please repeat after me one time. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. May you see your forgiveness and therefore your salvation and your innocence, your holiness, and your freedom from worry. All things are given you. God's trust in you is limitless. He knows his son. He gives without exception, holding nothing back that can contribute to your happiness. And yet, unless your will is one with his gifts are not received. But what would make you think there is another will than his? Here is the paradox that underlies the making of the world. This world is not the will of God, and so it is not real. Yet those who think it real must still believe there is another will, and one that leads to the opposite effects from those he wills. Impossible indeed, but every mind that looks upon the world and judges it as certain, solid, trustworthy, and true, believes in two creators, or in one himself alone, but never one God, never in one God. The gifts of God are not acceptable to anyone who holds such strange beliefs. He must believe that to accept God's gifts, however evident they may become, however urgently he may be called to claim them as his own, is to be pressed to treachery against himself. He must deny their presence, contradict the truth, and suffer to preserve the world he made. Do you believe in suffering, or that what is worth knowing and having requires some form of hard work? I need to make time and no resistance in order to know peace. Here is the only home he thinks he knows. Here is the only safety he believes that he can find. Without the world he made, is he an outcast, homeless and afraid. He does not realize that it is here he is afraid indeed, and homeless too, an outcast wandering so far from home, so long away. He does not realize he has forgotten where he came from, where he goes, and even who he really is. Yet in his lonely, senseless wanderings, God's gifts go with him, all unknown to him. He cannot lose them, but he will not look at what is given him. He wanders on, aware of the futility he sees about him everywhere, perceiving how his little lot but dwindles as he goes ahead to nowhere. Still he wanders on in misery and poverty, alone, though God is with him, and a treasure his so great that everything the world contains is valueless before its magnitude. Do you feel like you live in some degree of lack? That what you have is depleting or must be guarded and protected? Even the ideas or principles or morals that you stand upon are under attack. Do you believe this must be true? Is what you consider valuable melting away or breaking down? Are you valuing that which must inevitably change in a finite physical world? Or are you waking up to notice that there is something infinite about you and more valuable beyond time? He seems a sorry figure, weary, worn, in the threadbare clothing, and with feet that bleed a little from the rocky road he walks. No one but has identified with him, for everyone who comes here has pursued the path he follows, and has felt defeat and hopelessness as he is feeling them. Yet, is he really tragic when you see that all he is following, when you see that he is following the way he chose, and need but realize who walks with him and open up his treasures to be free? That we're choosing this path. We're choosing to feel however it is that we feel. We're choosing to continue to experience life the way that we imagine we are experiencing it. But we have an opportunity to notice something about ourselves in the present and make a different choice, not just in another problem or another solution, but in the opportunity to see from an entirely different perspective, from a whole new world, a new lens through love. This is your chosen self, the one you made as a replacement for reality. This is the self you savagely defend against all reason, every evidence, and all the witnesses with proof to show you this is not you. You heed them not. You go on your appointed way with eyes cast down, lest you might catch a glimpse of truth and be released from self-deception and set free. You cower fearfully, lest you should feel Christ's touch upon your shoulder and perceive his gentle hand directing you to look upon your gifts. How could you then proclaim your poverty in exile? He would make you laugh at this perception of yourself. Where is self-pity then? And what becomes of all the tragedy you sought to make for him whom God intended only joy? It's true. All the ways that we have been seeing as we begin to see through this lens of forgiveness and our own salvation, of sovereignty of mind, our choice to notice truth in its wholeness, to align ourselves with this unconditional love, to notice our wholeness rather than our lack. Even the same life we have been living suddenly has a whole new allure to it, beyond magical and some spectacle, but it is miraculous. And we give this idea away so that other ideas of other minds, our brothers, have the opportunity to see themselves instantly in their infiniteness, which offers us this reflection back. Our worries become something that we can laugh about. And the way that we spell cast, the spelling that we choose, the sentences, the exact words that we choose start to come into question. Is that what we really mean? Is that what we really want or choose or love? Maybe you are already doing this. And maybe you see the hypocrisy of how you have been formulating your sentences, your thoughts, your material objects, your relationships, your representation of yourself, your goals, and you can laugh that you were taking them so seriously before in the light that you saw them, demanding that they must be true when they were not leading you to your highest view of yourself or your best interest. You cower fearfully, lest you should feel Christ's touch upon your shoulder and perceive his gentle hand directing you to look upon your gifts. How could you then proclaim your poverty in exile? He would make you laugh at this perception of yourself. Where is self pity then? Yes, you are releasing, because it is not true, you are releasing the definition of yourself that is a victim, that requires justice, that has been perpetrated, that needs to attack or defend, or values some version of upset. This is exactly what we are letting go of. And what becomes of all the tragedy you sought to make for him who God intended only joy? Your ancient fear has come upon you now, and justice has caught up with you at last. Christ's hand has touched your shoulder, and you feel that you are not alone. You even think the miserable self you thought was you may not be your identity, capital I. Perhaps God's word is truer than your own. Perhaps his gifts to you are real. Perhaps he has not wholly been outwitted by your plan to keep his son in deep oblivion and go the way you choose without your capital S self. I love this idea. You really think that you're tricking God. I mean, it's a laughable idea in itself. Even if you're scared to define what God is, you understand that it's innately something higher or greater than you. And that can just be okay. It doesn't mean that he has some dominion over you or that you need to be God fearing versus God loving. But the idea that you're going to outwit God from whatever vantage point he has, if he has to do with your creation and being at all, is in simple truth laughable. And if you can see God as loving and you cannot outwit him, well, then you are admitting that whatever God would have for you is available for you always without your interference because his love is unconditional. You have no effect over it in your sliver of time when he is in this eternal realm of knowledge itself. God's will does not oppose, it merely is. God's will does not oppose. It's not an attack based idea. It's not against anything. God has no opposite. God's will does not oppose. There is nothing that challenges it. There is no condition to it whatsoever. God's will does not oppose. It merely is. The truth is. You are. God's will does not oppose. It merely is. It is not God you have imprisoned in your plan to lose yourself. He does not know about a plan so alien to his will. There was a need he did not understand, to which he gave an answer, capital A. That is all. And you who have this answer given you have need no more of anything but this: one problem, one solution. God's will, that answer. Now do we live, for now we cannot die. The wish for death is answered, and the sight that looked upon it now has been replaced by vision which perceives that you are not what you pretend to be. Yet your death is the way you have been seeing, rather than needing to be your physical death to escape the way that you see yourself. One walks with you who gently answers all your fears with this one merciful reply: it is not so. It is not so. This is not true. The story you have been telling yourself is old and never has been. It is not so. He points to you all the gifts you have each time the thought of poverty oppresses you, and speaks of his companionship, it's capital C, when you perceive yourself as lonely and afraid. I have felt this way, lonely and afraid, lacking, no more. Yet he reminds you still of one thing more you had forgotten, for his touch on you has made you like himself. The gifts you have are not for you alone. What he has come to offer you, you must now learn to give. This is the lesson that his giving holds, for he has saved you from the solitude you sought to make in which to hide from God. He has reminded you of all the gifts that God has given you. He speaks as well of what becomes your will when you accept these gifts and recognize they are your own. That's right. Conviction comes with acceptance. And to give and to receive are one in truth, that you receive by giving and noticing this reflection. Your self is gently whispering this idea that God has given you everything so that you may give it all away, because you can never lose what God has given you. There's no threat, no sacrifice, only blessing. The gifts are yours, entrusted to your care, to give to all who chose the lonely road you have escaped. They do not understand, they but pursue their wishes. It is you who teach them now, for you have learned of Christ. There is another way for them to walk. Teach them by showing them the happiness that comes to those who feel the touch of Christ and recognize God's gifts. Let sorrow not tempt you to be unfaithful to your trust. Let sorrow not tempt you to be unfaithful to your trust. AKA, don't be sad. Don't feel tempted anymore. You're not losing anything by gaining fullness in yourself. Continue to trust and offer this idea in its wholeness as a simple reflection for others to notice within themselves, just as you've noticed. Your sighs will now betray the hopes of those who look to you for their release. Your tears are theirs. If you are sick, you withhold their healing. What you fear but teaches them their fears are justified. Your hand becomes the giver of Christ's touch. Your change of mind becomes the proof that who accepts God's gifts can never suffer anything. You are entrusted with the world's release from pain. If you cave to weakness and darkness and condemnation and fear, you breathe life into those very ideas. And this is what you end up reflecting and giving and offering, validating this same cycle for others. But if you can see yourself in simple peace, and you can hear a story about yourself, and you can allow yourself to remember these words, it is not so, then you can offer this levity. It is not so is another way of saying there is another way of seeing this. And if someone is feeling weak and shameful or any other version of upset, you are simply allowing them to forgive themselves, to undo an essential part, undoing ourselves from fear, an essential part of the atonement. This is part of what the miracle process is, part of our own salvation. It is not so. Knowing this and feeling this for ourselves, and then giving away what we discover in this new world, this new perspective, this new way of seeing. Laughter, joy, love, and the resonance of knowing that the story you were telling yourself is not so. May you offer this idea in its simplicity as it can best be understood by anyone you meet. And one particular way that we know we can do that is to simply live it and offer that reflection for others. You are entrusted with the world's release from pain. Betray it not. Become the living proof of what Christ's touch can offer everyone. God has entrusted all his gifts to you. Be witness in your happiness to how transformed the mind becomes, which chooses to accept his gifts and feel the touch of Christ. Such is your mission now. For God entrusts the giving of his gifts to all who have received them. He has shared his joy with you, and now you go to share it with the world. You cannot lose these non material ideas of perfect peace and perfect safety and freedom from worry and abundance, truth and love, your worthiness, your completeness. You cannot lose these ideas once you have decided that you see them, that you accept them, that they become the foundation of what you are. You can only build in truth. It is whole, after all. It's unwavering, unfaltering. It is the purest, most true foundation. And these bend laws of time, reverse them, and the physical laws. This is not the same as giving away material items. That stuff doesn't matter from this perspective. There's nothing that you can gain that is greater than what you already have, that is always with you, because it is unconditional. I am entrusted with the gifts of God, and you are entrusted to give them. And this is what we meditate upon tonight and tomorrow morning, and remind ourselves each hour, if you can remember, I am entrusted with the gifts of God. It is not so. I am Kesten Rono, and I accept joyousness and the opportunity to share it with the world and with you.